For the function f of x equals x squared plus 4x plus 3, fill in the chart below and sketch the graph. Also find its domain and range. What I'm going to show you, because hopefully everyone is very comfortable with plugging 5 numbers into their calculator, or by hand, your choice. I'm going to show you how to make a table on your calculator instead. Okay? Feel free to write down the steps, but this is being recorded so you can review it at any time. Does everyone have the problem written down? Step 1, wait for the calculator to load. There we go. All right, ignore what I have there because I was working on some other stuff. So what we're first going to do is we're going to type this function into the calculator. So click on the y equals, which is the top left button on your calculator. And then we're going to type in the function itself. The x you should be using is this button right here, second row, second column. It says xt theta n. You want to use that guy. So we're going to say x squared plus 4x plus 3. Now, if you're doing any plotting, which we're not going to do on the calculator because we're going to do it by hand, you want to make sure that these are turned off. Otherwise, you might get some domain errors, and that's usually the cause. You'll see why these will be important later on today in the next section or two. But this is basically what your screen should look like. What we have to do now is set up the table. You'll notice above window there's a little thing that says table set, and it's in blue. Well, for my calculator, it might be yellow for yours. So we want to do second table set. We're going to modify the screen that we have here. There's 2 types of ways you can make your table. You can have the calculator automatically generate the table, which is good if your x values follow a pattern, like they're all the evens, they go up by 1, which what we have. You want to use a manual approach if you want to randomly put in some numbers, like 1.5, then 7, then 18. If you're going to go automatically do it, you have to make sure that independent and dependent are both on auto. If you want to manually do it, all you need to make sure is that independent is on ask and dependent is on auto. So that will differentiate between, does the calculator do it or do you do it? Since we want to automatically generate the table, then these 2 numbers are important. What number are we starting our list at? And we keep adding what number? 1. So we're going to say table starts, -4. The negative is by the decimal point. Don't use the minus sign. And just make sure the delta table, which means the change in the values for x, is 1. If that's good to go, then notice table is above graph. You'll just hit second table, and that will give you your table. It may be hard to see, but the y values going down are 3, 0, -1, 0, 3. Then it's got some more because it keeps going. It doesn't know that we're just stopping at the first 5. But that's how you automatically generate a table in your calculator. Let's go back to this guy. So what do we have? 3, 0, -1, 0, 3. Thank you. So if you would, plot these 5 points. You should notice that this is our U-shaped curve that we should come to expect for a quadratic. The x values were picked on purpose so that we automatically get a nice symmetry. There is a method of knowing how you should center your graph, which we learn about later on. So in the meantime, you may have to do some trial and error in order to figure out the shape of the graph. But again, if it's a quadratic, you should see a nice U shape. Yeah, parabolic curve. So let's talk about the domain and range. Domain are the values for the independent variable, which in our case is x. When looking at a graph, you want to concern yourself with how far left to how far right the graph goes, because that's the x values. How far left does the graph go? negative infinity. This arrowhead says not only is it going up, it's also going left. It's going faster up than it is left, but it's still going to head left. How far left? All the way. So when you write negative infinity in interval notation, it always gets a parenthesis. Comma, how far right is the graph going? Positive infinity. Not only is it pointing up over here, it's also moving to the right. In other words, you can say the domain is all reals. You can use that double bar R if you want. Range is the set of dependent values, in this case, f of x, also known as y. You always write in interval notation smallest to biggest, so for this guy, it's bottom to top. How far down along the y-axis does the graph go? -1. Do we include the -1? What symbol do we use to say include it? Bracket. Very good. Comma, how far up does the graph go? Infinity.